Betrayal will show you who someone truly is. It also has the opportunity to wake up the betrayer to who they temporarily became. Now, if it doesn't, you really have nothing to work with, but it could be the most eye-opening experience for them too.
You are now listening to the highlight reel builder for authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer and author of the best-selling book, Stay the Course, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some goodies today from the guest that's up next. Today's episode is sponsored by the GoingNorthPodcast.com shop. And we got some new designs on the website, baby. That's right. Check out the new designs. We got two new designs. One is outread your competition to outlead your competition. And the other one is perfection is completion, but excellence is exceeding expectations. Because when you feel like something's perfect, it's truly not. But when you seek excellence, you are after exceeding the expectations of the folks you serve and your past self. So head over to GoingNorthPodcast.com.shop and pick up some more magical gear in multiple forms in more ways than one. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the highlight reel builder for authors known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, is the Going North podcast. And we got another super special, awesome human for you today because my goodness, it's been a long time coming. It's some 3D action today, folks. 3 dimensions all in one because today's guest is the founder, folks. That's right. She's a founder. She found something of the host Betrayal Transformation Institute and is a holistic psychologist, a health and mindset and professional development expert, and the author. That's right, folks. The author of multiple #1 best-selling books. And to put the icing on the cake, she is no stranger to media appearances, y'all, because she's been on Fox, CBS, the Dr. Oz Show, as well as being a TEDx speaker, y'all. And she's got a boatload of views on her TEDx talk. That's freaking amazing. So let's give it up for the one, the only, the DS herself, the delightful and stupendous Dr. Debi Silber. How you doing today, Dr. Debi?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to our conversation.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Been looking forward to this for a while indeed because you got a boatload of great content out there and finally found some time to get on the Going North podcast. It's a know you're a busy lady who's always on the go in more ways than one.
Doing a lot of things, a lot of good work, and thank you for the opportunity to share it.
Woohoo! That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So my goodness, as you know, with all introductions, they're not allowed to be 73 and a half days long. So mind filling in any cavities I may have missed about you, Dr. Deb?
You know, I'm sure we'll fill in whatever we missed during our conversation. But which TED Talk were you talking about? I did two actually, and one of you mentioned one. So they're both very different and both have a lot to do with what we'll be talking about today. So you may have watched my most recent one. Do you have post-betrayal syndrome? I don't know. The other one is
Yeah.
stop sabotaging yourself. Okay.
Yep, definitely the post-betrayal one. Because I know that's a huge one, and heck, it's actually interesting that betrayal is kind of really one of your main wheelhouses, because that's something a lot of folks don't even talk about. They probably don't even want to talk about it.
Well, that's it. And it's my 30th year in business, and I started in health and mindset and then personal development. And, it's not the kind of thing where you say, you know what, I want to study betrayal. You study betrayal because you have to. So, a painful betrayal from my family. And then I thought I did, everything I needed to do to heal from that. And a couple of years later, it happened again, this time my husband. So got him out of the house, looked at the two experiences, and I was like, okay, what's similar to these two? Of course, me, but what else? And I realized, boundaries were always getting crossed, never took my needs seriously. So here I was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, a thriving business. And I'm like, I'm going back for a PhD. And it was in transpersonal psychology, the psychology of transformation and human potential, because I was changing so much. I didn't really understand what was going on. He was too, wasn't ready to look at that. And then it was time to do a study. So I studied betrayal, what holds us back, what helps us heal, and what happens to us physically, mentally, and emotionally when the people closest to us lie, cheat, and deceive. That study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changed my health, my business, my family, my life.
Oh yeah, that's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. And if I'm not mistaken, you actually got remarried to the husband you divorced, right?
Well, we didn't actually get divorced. We separated, but yeah, we had rebuilding is always a choice, whether you rebuild yourself and move along, which is what I did with my family, wasn't an option to rebuild with them. Or if the situation lends itself, if you're willing, if you want to, you rebuild something entirely new with the person who hurt you. Yeah. So not long ago, as two totally transformed people, we married each other again. New rings, new vows, new dress, and our 4 kids is our bridal party. Yep.
That's right, indeed. Isn't that beautiful though? It's actually good when folks can actually reconcile and get back together like that, because a lot of folks are probably thinking about that now. We're probably thinking, oh, maybe I should have never even thought about going down that path.
Well, you know what happens? It's like, I think, well, what I see is people are so afraid of that complete, death and destruction of the old, but that's the only way you can rebirth the new. And they try to patch it up, patch it up, patch it up. It just doesn't work. And after that, I was like, all right, that was the deal breaker. So here I am now. I'm a single mom and going to do my thing. And that's the way we really heal, when we don't really consider, well, what do I do? It's all about the relationship. No, it's not. The betrayal ended that, ended the old. And now you rebuild yourself. And if that person steps it up, if they're willing, if they want to, you really can have an entirely new relationship. Same person, but not really the same person. So that's what happened.
Ah, that's true. It's kind of like someone giving the same, I guess, bare bones speech to different cities and towns, but it's not exactly the same speech because they could add like different stories and anecdotes and analogies in there where it's like, oh yeah, this better fits this audience opposed to giving the same exact speech because they're going to be different people.
Well, you see things so differently. It's such an opportunity to wake up. Betrayal will show you who someone truly is. It also has the opportunity to wake up the betrayer to who they temporarily became. Now, if it doesn't, you really have nothing to work with, but it could be the most eye-opening experience for them too. And when that's the case, you have something to work with. If they don't wake up to something that big, you move along. Just move along. There's nothing to work with at this point in time.
Ah, that's what I'm talking about. So the betrayer, it did. So my goodness. So with all the betrayal, like in your life, and it seems like you had to overcome it now being this black belt expert at it. Mostly not by choice, but I guess by default. Any two lessons that really stick out to you for those who may be going through that time themselves right now?
Yeah, so many go through it. And what I see now from this side is it's not only possible, to heal, it's predictable. And there were actually the 3 studies that we made. I'm happy to share what the studies were if that would help. Well, one of them was betrayal is a very different experience than other types of trauma. It's not like, one trauma is better or worse. They all stink. But betrayal is so different because it feels so intentional, so we take it so personally. So the whole self gets shattered and has to be rebuilt. Think about it: rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust. They're all destroyed. So when you heal from something like that, it's a different kind of healing. So it needed its own term, which is now called post-betrayal transformation. So that was the first discovery, that it is different. The second discovery was that there's actually a collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal, it's now known as post-betrayal syndrome. And we've had easily over 50,000 people take our post-betrayal syndrome quiz on our site to see to what extent they're struggling. A few things about that. One thing is, we've all heard time heals all wounds. I have the proof when it comes to betrayal. That's simply not true, because there's a question that says, is there anything else you'd like to share? And people write things like, my betrayal happened 35 years ago. I'm unwilling to trust again. My betrayal happened 40 years ago. I can still feel the hate. My betrayal happened 10 years ago. Feels like it happened yesterday. So we know when it comes to betrayal, you cannot count on time to heal it. In fact, it is so easy to spot an unhealed betrayal. We could spot them from a mile away. We see it in our health, in our work, in our relationships. You want me to share how I see it?
Oh, go on ahead, Doc.
Okay, so in relationships, let's say I'll see it in one of 2 ways. The first way is in a repeat betrayal. The faces change, but it's the same thing. You go from boss to boss to boss, friend to friend to friend, partner to partner to partner. You say, what the heck, is it me? Yes, it is. Not in that it's your fault. in that it's your opportunity. There's a profound lesson needing to be learned, whatever that is for you. You are worthy and deserving. You are lovable, whatever it is. Until and unless you get that, you will keep getting opportunities in the form of people to teach you. Like, look at my two experiences. I always put myself last. I never took my needs seriously. And after that second one, I was like, oh, that's it. And for me, enrolling in that PhD program was the first thing I had ever done for myself. For me, that was huge, but it changed my entire life. So you see, lesson learned. The second way we see it in relationships is where people put the big wall up. And you and I both know people like this, where it's like, nope, been there, done that. No one's getting near me again. We think it's coming from a place of strength. It's not. It's coming from fear. We also see it in health. People go to the most well-meaning doctors, coaches, healers, therapists to manage a stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. At the root of it is an unhealed betrayal. We see it at work too. People want to ask for that raise or that promotion. They deserve it, but their confidence was shattered. So they don't have the confidence to ask, right? And they're bitter and resentful. Or they want to be a team player, collaborative partner, but the person they trusted the most proved untrustworthy. How do they trust that boss, that coworker, that partner? You see, shows up everywhere. But every few months, I pull the stats from the quiz just to see where people land. You want me to share them?
Go on ahead.
Okay, so now imagine we have men, women, every age group, just about every country is represented. So figure 50,000 plus people. Out of that, 78% constantly revisit their experience. 81% feel a loss of personal power. 80% are hypervigilant. 94% deal with painful triggers. Those triggers can take you right down. The most common physical symptoms, and we think it's just mental, emotional, it's physical too. Most common physical symptoms, 71% have low energy, 68% have sleep issues, 63% have extreme fatigue, 47% have weight changes. So in the beginning, maybe they can't hold food down. Later on, they're using food for comfort. 45% have digestive issues, and that's anything from Crohn's, IBS, diverticulitis, constipation, diarrhea, you name it. The most common mental symptoms, 78% are overwhelmed, 70% are walking around in a state of disbelief, 68% are unable to focus, 64% are in shock, and 62% are unable to concentrate. So imagine you've just experienced this earth-shattering, soul-crushing, heartbreaking betrayal. You can't concentrate, you're exhausted, you have a gut issue, you still have to work, you still have to raise your kids. That's not even the emotional issues. Emotionally, 88% experience extreme sadness, 83% are very angry, real common to bounce back and forth between those two emotions. 82% feel hurt, 80% have anxiety, 79% are stressed. So just a few more stats. Here's why I wrote the book, Trust Again. Ready? 84% have an inability to trust. 84%. 67% prevent themselves from forming deep relationships because they're afraid of being hurt again. 82% find it hard to move forward. 90% want to move forward, but they don't know how.
Mm. Now that's powerful right there, and it like so many things just popped up at me, especially situation with some relatives of mine where it was an aunt and an uncle where the uncle, he was going through some tough times and he actually went to the hospital, and then the aunt, she went there shortly afterwards and found out later that there was some family issues where there was a little infidelity. And when you mentioned the diverticulitis, that actually happened to
Yeah.
the aunts, and I'm like, wow. Yeah, so that post betrayal. And I'm like so glad you mentioned the physical piece, because a lot of folks, they may not think that. They think it's all internal, like it doesn't hurt the body at all. It's a mind kind of spirit, emotional type of thing. But hey, the body does keep score.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. The problem is we go to the most well-meaning doctors, coaches, healers, therapists, to manage this stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. Like I'm sure your aunt went to a great doctor, maybe even a great gut specialist. But meanwhile, if that gut specialist isn't really skilled in betrayal, and that'll get me to the third discovery, they're hacking away at the leaves. You're not getting to the root problem, which is healing the betrayal. And that's why. And here's the craziest thing about it too. The symptoms that I just mentioned, this doesn't have to be from a recent betrayal. This could be from a betrayal that happened decades ago, right? Now, I don't know if that was the situation with your aunt, but it could be from something that happened. Now, could you imagine here she is spending, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 plus years dealing with a gut issue that happened, decades ago. And that's what happens. It's so common. And then, one symptom adds on to the next, but we're never getting to the root cause, which is the betrayal. So this was the third discovery. For me, this was the most exciting. And what we found was, while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many people do, if we're going to fully heal, and by fully heal, I mean those symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome to that totally healed place of post-betrayal transformation, we're going to go through 5 now proven predictable stages. What's even more exciting about that is, it's not even that we know what happens physically, mentally, and emotionally at every stage. We know that now. We also know what it takes to move from one stage to the next. Why is that good? Healing is entirely predictable. If someone is willing, we know exactly how to move them from one stage to the next. That's why I was so excited to write Trust Again, because the 5 stages are in there. And now our certified coaches are all certified in the 5 stages. It's what we teach within the PBT Institute, but I'm happy to share them if it would serve.
Yep, sure. Yes, indeed. Folks need to buy some copies of that Trust Again book, indeed, especially since it's in hardcover, too. So that way it'll last a long time during the whole time period where you think it might heal.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. I also wrote the book because at a time where we need support the most, we're the least likely to seek it. So even if you're on your own, you can get that. And I did the audio for it, so you could listen, you could have the book in your hands, and it's available to you. Yeah. So here are the 5 stages, and that you don't skip the order. The order doesn't change. What happens though is stage 3, and when I say it, you will see why. That is the most common stage to get stuck in. Most people stay there and land there and stay for life. And when I go through it, you'll see why. So stage 1 is like a setup stage. And if you can imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. What I saw with everybody, me too, was this real heavy lean on the physical and the mental, thinking and doing, right? And kind of neglecting the emotional and the spiritual, feeling and being, right? So if you only have 2 legs standing strong, easy for that table to topple over. That's us, right? Stage 2, shock, trauma, D-Day, Discovery Day. And this is the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. By far the scariest of all of the stages. This is when you just receive that earth-shattering news, right? And so right here, you've ignited the stress response. You are now headed for every single stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. Your mind is in a complete state of chaos and overwhelm. You cannot wrap your mind around the information you just learned. Makes no sense. The world it's like a weird slow motion thing going on. And your worldview has just been shattered. Your worldview is your mental model. It's the rules that prevent chaos, that govern you. Don't go there, trust this person, this is how life works, And in one moment, every rule you've known to be real and true is no longer. The bottom has bottomed out on you. And a new bottom hasn't been formed yet. So it's terrifying. But think about it. If the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? You grab hold of anything you could to stay safe and stay alive. And that's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. It's the most practical out of all of the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this experience? Who can I trust? Where do I go? How do I feed my kids? Here's the trap though. Once you've figured out how to survive, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma of where you just came from, we're like, whoosh, and we think it's good. And because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we don't know there's a stage 4 or stage 5. Transformation doesn't even begin until stage 4. But because we don't know that, we start planting roots here, and 4 things happen. We're not supposed to, but we don't know that. The first thing is you start getting all these small self benefits. You get to be right. You get your story, you get someone to blame, you get a target for your anger, right? You get sympathy from everybody you tell your story to. Are you thinking of somebody right now you could think of that's doing this right? You don't have to do the hard work of, right? You don't have to do the hard work of learning to trust again. Should I trust you? Can I trust you? Forget it. I'm not trusting anybody. So you plant deeper roots. Again, you're not supposed to stay here, but you don't know that. Then because you're here longer than you should be, now the mind starts doing things like, well, maybe you're not all that great. Maybe you deserved it. maybe this, maybe that. So you plant deeper roots. Now, because these are the thoughts you're thinking, and this is the energy you have. Like energy attracts like energy. So now you start calling people and circumstances and relationships towards you to confirm, yep, this is where you belong. You plant deeper roots. It gets worse, but I'll get you out of here. Because it feels so bad, but because you don't know there's anywhere else to go, right here is where you resign yourself. You're like, this stinks, but I guess this is as good as it gets. How do I make it through the day? So right here is where you start using food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, keeping busy, whatever. Now think about it, because you're trying to numb, avoid, and distract yourself from what's painful to feel or face. So here's what happens. You do that for a day, a week, a month. Now it's a habit. A year, 10 years, 20 years. And I can see someone 20 years out and say, that drinking you're doing, or that emotional eating you're doing, or that numbing in front of the TV, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? They would look at me like I'm crazy. They'd say, it happened 20 years ago. All they did was put themselves in stage 3 and stay there. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense indeed.
Yeah, that's why people stay in this one stage for so long. And what I found was, because so many people were landing in stage 3 and staying there, from hardened to healed is just for stage 3. Stage 3 is, I'm coming for you, because if you went through the worst of it, you owe it to yourself to heal. So trust again has all 5 stages, but I focus on stage 3 in from hardened to healed. Anyway, if you're willing to let go of the small self benefits, grieve more in the loss, a bunch of things you need to do, you move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo what happened, but I control what I do with it. And in that one decision, you start turning down the stress response. You're not healing just yet, but you stop the massive damage you were causing in stage 2 and stage 3. What also happens is, when you make that decision, it's as if you're moving to a new, you're moving to this new stage. And I always use the example of, if you were to move to a new house, office, condo, apartment, whatever, you don't have all your stuff there. It's not cozy yet, but it's going to be okay. And in that one decision, you are really starting to heal. Now, here's what's interesting. If you were to move, you don't take everything with you. Right? You don't take the things that don't represent who you want to be when you're in that new space. And what I found was, if your friends weren't there for you, you've just outgrown them right here. And so people say to me all the time, what the heck? I've had these friends 10, 20, 30 years. Is it me? Yes, it is. You're undergoing a transformation. And if they don't rise, they don't come. You've just outgrown them. And so it's really common to change friendships right at this stage. When you're in this stage, you're making it kind of cozy, making it mentally home, you move into the 5th most beautiful stage. And this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body starts to heal, self-love, self-care, eating well, exercising, things like that. You didn't have the bandwidth for that earlier. You were surviving. Now you do. Your mind is healing. You're making new rules. You're making new boundaries based on your experience. And you have a new worldview based on the road you see so clearly now. And the 4 legs of the table, in the beginning, it was just all about the physical and the mental. By this point, we're solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. That's right. That's right. Dave, she dropped the bomb on you. My goodness, my goodness. Powerful stuff indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And that's so good. And just really, and you're so right about the 3rd phase, especially like the whole survival. Because when you're focusing on just survival, like self care, like regular self care isn't really on your radar in stage 5 yet, because you're just focusing on just surviving day to day, like getting through stuff and finding vices and other distractions. I can see why you set that up.
You make it a habit and then you're stuck. And that's why people, go through a betrayal, and you could see why they have a repeat betrayal, because that's where they're living. That's the state of mind they're in. And all they are able to create is more of the same. And so they do.
That makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. It's like, oh, mirror, mirror on the wall. Darn, I'm in a house of mirrors. Darn, let me get out of here.
Yeah. And it's terrible, because they've been through something so painful. You owe it to yourself to move completely through the stages. Because there's a version that I see of people when they're in stage 5. It's a version of you who'd blow your mind. This is the version who is so healthy, so healed, so confident, so strong. Because think about it, when you heal from shattered trust, when you heal from that sense of rejection and abandonment, when you realize, even though it happened to you, it's not about you. This was the person you trusted the most. And when you can recover and heal and become someone new, after something like that, it's mind blowing who you're able to become. And I see it every single day.
Love it. Love it indeed. And that's so powerful. Congratulations on all of your wonderful success and studies and really just compiling all of those together, because that's no small feat. 50,000 different responses and being able to compile all of them together and create a team to help you with all the studies and helping folks really heal from that betrayal.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because first the study led to those 3 discoveries: the post-betrayal syndrome, post-betrayal transformation, and then the 5 stages. But once post-betrayal syndrome became a real thing, that's when we created the study on our site. And then, and people started taking it. And then when the 5 stages, when that showed up, I put it in a program, because, you can't make discoveries and go back to business as usual, put that in a program, and it blew up. And then everybody wanted to work with me. And I was like, so I couldn't do it. So I created the certification program so we could just get it out there to coaches and doctors and therapists and counselors. And that went crazy. And I was like, well, okay, I know what the research proved works. I know what doesn't work. What would happen if we put everything and only what works under one roof? And that's the PBT Institute.
I like it indeed. I like it indeed. The PBT Institute, indeed. So, my goodness, so did you ever see yourself being the dean of this institute, the founder of this wonderful institute, like 40 years ago, and be like, hey, I'm going to be extra famous one day. I'm going to be head doctor.
No, here's what it is. And I didn't do anything anybody else couldn't do. But I remember thinking to myself, when I was healing from this betrayal, I remember thinking, if I can heal, I'm taking everybody with me. I mean, that was the only thought I had. And it was like, deal with my clients, my kids, the dogs, crash. Clients, kids, dogs, crash. Like, that was it. But as this roadmap was sort of just showing up, I just did what the research was proving works. And then I was like, well, okay, so if I did it, and then we certified our coaches and they were doing it, and I was doing this with clients and I'm like, well, this has to be readily available for anybody. Because if someone heals, think about the ripple effect here. If they're stuck right now, who are they to their kids? Who are they to the people in their lives? They don't have what to give. They're working at such a limited capacity because of their belief system, because of the pain they're in, because of the fiscal issues they're dealing with. But if they can then heal, think about now the resilience tools that the kids learn. Like my kids, they saw, listen, mom got hit hard, but here she's rising. So we see it, so it's the ripple effect of who benefits when you heal, everybody within your care and reach. And so we see it, people coming into the Institute, and they're coming in at that stage 2 or that stage 3, and they could have been at that stage 3 for decades. But then they move predictably to that stage 4, and then they move to that stage 5. And I'll tell you, I have seen so many new, because when you're in that stage 4, stage 5, that's when, you're ready for that new level of health, that new relationship, that new body, that new business. The PBT Institute was birthed in me being in stage 4, stage 5. And we've seen so many other businesses get born, in that stage, because when that dust settles, and you start healing, doors open that you never would have had access to when you were stuck in that stage 3.
Amen to that. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. And she's got a heart of gold, y'all. That's right. When she's healed, she's taking everybody else with her to get healed too, y'all. That's right. That's right, indeed. And that means explosive growth for you too, indeed, folks. The folks that are listening right now to this wonderful lady of power who's helping the masses and the molasses, y'all. I'm telling you. That's right, indeed. So, since you've been on a boatload of podcasts and you actually have a podcast of your own too that also has some great content, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're on the guest side of the game on these podcasts?
Let's see. People think that it's like this is their lot in life and they're just stuck. And they think whether they say it out loud or not, they're like, okay, well, that works for you, but not for me. And I wish they asked that question so I could just show them that there are 5 stages. You just have to be willing. That's really it. That's really it. It has nothing to do with who you know or where you live. No, it only has to do with your willingness. And even in fact, when I was doing this study, I thought the people who were the hardest hit would grow the least because they had the most to overcome. That had nothing to do with it at all. Nothing. Willingness played such a huge role. So I don't know. I wish I just knew if people really were hesitating so I could just let them know it's predictable. They just have to be willing.
Ah, there you go. That's right, be willing, y'all. That's right. Healing is predictable indeed when you're willing to receive that healing indeed. Definitely, indeed. Definitely gotta love it. Well, you got this fabulous book in addition to all the stuff that you're doing from Hardened to Heal. So, my goodness, a fun question I've been liking to ask guests recently is that if that book in particular was a food item, what would it be and why?
Hmm. What would it be? Huh, that's a good question. If this book was the only thing that's coming to mind is ice cream. Not sure why, because it's just good. But it's a certain kind of ice cream, and I can't I can't nail down what kind of ice cream it is, but it's just very specific. It just is. It's a specific kind of ice cream that you're gonna love the minute you start having it because it's gonna get you out of that stage 3. It just will.
There we go. Heck, it could be Rocky Road if folks aren't allergic to chocolate, maybe.
That's it.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. From Hardened to Heal. It's no longer ice, it becomes creamy.
And it's an audiobook now. I did the audio, so it's ready. And I was trying so hard to speak slowly because I speak so fast. So you may have to slow it down, everyone. Up to you.
Ah, true. True indeed. But hey, I appreciate fast. That means I don't have to put it at 2.0 speed.
No, not at all.
Oh, man. Well, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're in the current year of 2022 with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Nice one. I give my 25-year-old self. Let's see. Just don't stop ever. If you have an idea, it's because you're the one who's supposed to see it through. Just trust and keep going. Period.
There you go. That's right. They see it through, y'all. So if you got that idea, that's right. Make sure you don't tell it's no dream killers. Find some folks who can encourage you, give you some resources, link you up with some people to make the magic happen. And you too may be able to one day help other folks get certified and spread the wonderful healing that needs to be had around the planet, y'all. That's right. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So, and speaking of spreading the healing, for those who need to hop on all the wonderful stuff that the good Dr. Deb is doing, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Just, take the Healed or Hardened quiz so you see what stage you're in. And you can just find that at healedorhardenedquiz.com.
Well, there you go, folks. That's right. You'll definitely see that link in the show notes. Take the quiz, see what's going on, folks. That way you can have some more clarity. Oh, that's right, because Deb is going to help you to get some of that wonderful clarity with those results. And heck, she and one wonderful, wonderful certified trainers can help you out with the issue indeed. So that way you can get to that stage 5 and have those metaphorical 9-pack abs, y'all. That's right. That's right indeed. Heck, you might even actually have them. You might be so healed, it's like, I need to be a gym rat. Stay in the gym forever. Get all these 8-pack abs. Oh, man. So any parting words before we close up shop, Dr. Debbie?
Yeah, I would just say I know how painful it is. I know how much it hurts, and I know it seems so hopeless. And you may feel like there's no way out of this. I didn't do one thing anybody else couldn't do. That's it. I mean, you owe it to yourself to do something really good with something really painful.
How's it going, my friend? I'm so glad you made it to the end. That shows that you are an uncommon finisher, and I am so grateful for you sharing your ears, your attention, and your time to this wonderful podcast. To do something that'll take yourself to the next level, and for everybody else involved in this wonderful program, share it with at least 3 people in your network so that way more folks can not only catch the fire that is on this podcast, but can also be inspired to be their best. Advance others to advance yourself.